x-dream group. I'm working in sales and business development, and I'm very happy to have this session with Aurélien Brelle, co-founder and also sales director from Woody Technologies. Hello, Aurélien.
Hello, Tobias. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Good, very good. Nice to be part of this first international event of x-dream.
Absolutely, and actually it's my first session, and this session with Aurélien is about 7 things to consider in remote ingest. So we'll have a look into that. We'll have 30 minutes. I hope it's interesting. Also, please ask questions. There is also the communication, the commenting part from the live channel, so please ask questions. We will also address them at some point. So, remote ingest. When we talk about remote ingest, then obviously there is file local ingest, there is baseband live ingest, and there is remote ingest. So, Aurélien, could you please define what it is? What is remote ingest?
Yeah, actually, remote ingest can correspond to various situations. You can be working on the field as a field reporter and needing to send content to your facility or to your colleagues. You can be working from a remote office, which is not the main office where the production system is located, but which is still a facility of your organization. You can be working from home, which happens a lot these times. And there is another situation where we can mention remote ingest is that when the system is not on premises but is in the cloud, and somehow you need to remotely send the content to the cloud.
So you find a bit also types of remote ingest. So it is kind of could you go a bit more in detail about that maybe?
Yeah, sure. So what we are seeing mainly are people working on their laptop and needing to send content that they have shot with their professional camera or with another device to the main central production system. So people working on laptops, people working more and more on smartphones. That's another topic that we are addressing. I have shot something with my smartphone, or I want someone to shoot something with his smartphone and send the content to me. That's also another use case, which is also growing because of user-generated content. You want not only your employee to generate content for you, but you also want anyone who has a smartphone to be able to capture news and to send the content, so to ingest the content to you and to your system. And we have all the correspondence and the people working on a distant site, the news correspondence, the people being in another city than the main facility, so the local correspondence of all the news organizations.
To also follow a bit the description of how we define this session, also maybe we do it really physically. So what are the components of a remote ingest? What do we need for that?
So basically you need an ingest application, which can be installed locally on your laptop or on your smartphone. So this is what we name Intuit Access at Woody Technologies. So this Intuit Access is the part that is allowing you to preview, select the content, prepare it for ingest. But you also need a backend, and especially for remote ingest, you need a backend that is managing the configurations, the destinations where you are sending content to. So this is the backend server that is most often for remote ingest deployed in the cloud. And you need something in the middle also to transport the files and the metadata. So there is, of course, a transport layer that is important that can be of various forms. I think we will elaborate on that a bit later on.
Okay. So you went a bit in that direction already, but what, in your personal eyes, what is needed, especially for remote ingest?
What is needed is something that makes it as simple as if it's not remote, because and that's what we aim to achieve at Woody. We have first considered the challenges linked to remote ingest situations, but in terms of user experience, this should not be different from any other ingest. The challenge is more, how can you make this happen as an organization manager, to have all your users in all these locations having access to these tools. So this is a challenge in terms of deployment. You need an easy way to deploy the tools. This is a challenge in terms of configuration. Of course, you cannot go on every computer, every smartphone to deploy the configuration. So this needs to be simple, easy, and centralized. And I would say that the third need that needs to be addressed is all the monitoring, the supervision, the notifications that will make sure that everyone is aware of what is being ingested where. So I think these are the needs to address, and of course the transport of files again is something to consider very carefully.
Well, you spoke about challenges on the very technical challenges. However, do we expect that the journalist or the person doing remote ingest knows all about these technical processes, or what's the challenges with the human part?
No, that's a good question. The human challenge is that and the user challenge is that most of the time the people working remotely like this are not necessarily technical users. They can be journalists, cameramen are technical users, but maybe not familiar with the ingest process itself. And you expect things from them. You expect that the content is first arriving at the right place, at the right format, and on time. And you also expect them to enrich the content, to give some information about what they are ingesting, because this will be critical for the rest of the production workflow. So for the first part, this needs to be managed, all the technical contingencies of formats, transcoding, destinations. This needs to be hidden from the users. They cannot take care of that, and that's what we are doing at Woody by building very simple operations for the users, very simple objects that we name the ingest profiles. And these ingest profiles are containing all the technical details about what will happen, but this is hidden from the end user. So for a journalist point of view, this is just about selecting the right profile, and you can make the profile name very meaningful to make sure that there is no mistakes possible. And for the second part, how to enrich the metadata, you need to have a very intuitive UI for the users, and you need to guide them. That's what we are also doing, forcing them to add some metadata that you expect, offering controlled list of values for this metadata, or controlling what has been entered by a user to make sure that it matches your expectations in terms of type, metadata type, metadata format. So yeah, I would say that one part of the solution is to have the technical things hidden from the user, and one other part is to have very intuitive UI to guide them doing the right thing.
Okay, so we realize, or we have to consider in a way what kind of ingest we are really planning remotely, so that has some technical backend, some software component, and of course some hardware component. However, if we succeed in that, we also have the human component. And further, going a bit more in the software direction, obviously we have the content and we want to transfer it. So what is the challenge about the transfer? So what do we need for this transfer?
So the challenge of the transfer is the speed first, and the reliability and the security. These are the challenges about the transfer. So you have different ways to proceed, and depending on what is most important to you, and also depending on the context, because all remote ingest workflows are not the same. You have remote ingest workflows where you have people everywhere in the world. Sometimes it's a fixed location in another city with a good bandwidth. Sometimes you have a bad bandwidth. You can be anywhere on the field. So depending on all these factors, you will choose what is the transport protocol, the transport technology that is the most suitable for your workflow.
And is there also kind of a question about speed? So how can you ensure a certain speed for that?
Yeah, definitely, because the problem is that media is heavy. You can have bad connection situations for remote ingest. And even if you don't have a bad connection, even if you have a very good connection, if you are very far away from where you are sending to, you have the latency that is also slowing down the transfer. So there are various ways to solve that. The first one to solve the latency is to use transfer accelerators using the UDP technology. For the bad connection, unfortunately, there is nothing that you can really do to make a very bad connection very good, like magic. But what you can do is that you can offer different ingest profiles to your users. So if they are in a situation where the connection is bad, they can have automatically the content transcoded in a lower resolution, so have a lighter file to transfer, and then of course that will optimize the speed of the transfer.
Okay, and you mentioned this third-party file accelerators. With which parties do you integrate?
So we have three main partners for this transfer acceleration. Which are I think the leaders of the market. We are integrating with the Aspera fast protocol. So from Intuit Access and all the Woody products, you can deliver to an Aspera high-speed transfer server. This is totally transparent for the users. This is all happening in the background, being managed by Woody. You can also integrate with File Catalyst, which is another solution based on UDP for accelerated transfers. And the third one that we have integrated is the Signient. So you can also using a Signient protocol transfer to a Signient transfer server remotely. That the workflow is almost always the same, no matter which technology you use. Beyond the transfer acceleration technologies, using this UDP protocol for the transfer, there are other possibilities. Of course, there is the traditional FTP transfer. That's not really solving the issue with the latency. And we have also now more and more the leveraging of the cloud storage for the transfer. So transferring from your device to the cloud, and then the content will be retrieved from the cloud in the facility.
From the experience with some customer cases, I know that a lot of bigger broadcasters, especially because they have more stuff to look into things, they have their preferred solution mostly already. However,
yes.
I know that we from the x-dream side as well as the Woody side, we can look into this topic from a very neutral position and really kind of also give you an advice which file accelerator, for example, or which third party might be interesting for you. Of course.
Yes, that's just Toby. Just to add something, this is really also what we are doing at Woody. We are agnostic from the media asset management technology you have, but we are also agnostic from the transfer acceleration technology you want to use, from the camera you are using. So our role is to be in the middle and to facilitate your remote ingest workflow in that case. No matter what the ecosystem is, we will try to use what you have, or we will advise what seems to fit best for your needs.
I think that is very important to point that out, that there is this agnostic and also that there is the consultancy competence in all of our teams.
We have experience with all these technologies. We have running workflows with all these technologies, so we can see what is working well in which situation.
And I think we quickly spoke about it already, but how do you deal with the bandwidth problems in some areas?
So the only way to deal with the bandwidth problem is to have lighter file to transport. So as I mentioned, we can configure, you as a customer can configure for your users some profiles where the file will be transcoded to a lower resolution, so it will be lighter to transfer. And of course, at the reception point, we can put that again to your house format and deliver it in the production system. But what is good is that thanks to the users management, the profiles management, you can make this the choice of the user, because you cannot know in advance if someone will be in a bad bandwidth situation or in a good bandwidth situation. So for a given user, you can configure several profiles and you can name them like low bandwidth profile, low bandwidth ingest, or high bandwidth ingest. So then the quality will be adapted to the context. And if you have time, and if you care more about the quality than the speed, you can still use the high quality transfer even with a low connection, and that will take more time, of course. But at the end, your content will arrive, and we integrate in the Woody processes all the resume automatism, the resume mechanisms. So if a transfer is interrupted, it can start over from where it was stopped, which is available with most of the solutions that we are using.
And of course, also, if you do the smaller ingest at some point, you can also, at the evening, then deliver the original file to the facility. So there is also this possibility.
Yes, definitely, when you are coming back or when you have a better bandwidth, right.
In this, we mentioned it briefly that there is the cloud component as well. Which clouds do you prefer to work with? Let's ask a bit like that, maybe.
Yeah, we are also agnostic in this area. We are when we deploy our own backend in the cloud, we generally use Microsoft Azure. But we have, for example, now a customer where we are deploying a complete cloud system, and this is a mix of AWS and a private cloud. So it doesn't really matter for the deployment of the Woody component that will run in the cloud. Our preferred is Azure, but again, we can work with any cloud provider. In terms of cloud storage integration, because we are using the cloud computing to run the backend, but we are also using the cloud storage to transfer the files to the cloud. Here we integrate with AWS S3, we integrate with Microsoft Azure Blob Storage, and we integrate with Google Cloud Platform Storage. So we can deliver content and retrieve content to and from all these cloud storage providers.
So as you realize during developing our session, we made it sound rather easy, the 7 points to consider. It is very simple. However, if you go into detail, there are a lot of things to consider. Please also get with us in a separate session. We are very happy to consult you on that. So our next question is concerning, can we really do all remote ingest with having no one on the production facility? Or how is this organized in the...
Yeah, definitely, because when you are doing the remote ingest, there is a part that is on the sender side, and there is the part that is on the reception side. On the reception side, that's what you are asking now, we can completely automate the last mile of ingest, so getting the files that have been transferred and putting them at the right place with the right metadata, with the right format. So we have Intuit Exchange, which is our in and out platform for all media and metadata across various systems. And Intuit Exchange can totally automate the last part, which is making this content that has been ingested remotely available in your production system, in your media asset management system. So this can be fully automated. The media and the metadata are processed together, and then you can work in your preferred media asset management or in your preferred editing software.
Also, for those who know Woody from the past, there has been a recent renaming in the products. Maybe you should also get into a session with us and the Woody team to get to know all about this. Woody Exchange is the form of Woody Intuit Server, correct?
Yes. Intuit Exchange is now managing all the automated ingest and outgest workflows. We've also merged the outgest in this part, in this Intuit Exchange part. So that's the backend for all the automated processes. And Intuit Access is the user interface, is what the journalists, what the operators, what the cameraman will use and will face to prepare their content and to start their ingest workflow.
Maybe it gets a bit more clear when we speak about some examples where this kind of remote ingests are used. I prepared one slide. I hope I took the right one. You can explain a bit on that one if you see it.
Yes, that's the right one.
Yes, that's nice.
So that's an example of a remote ingest workflow. Just for you to know, now almost all the projects that we've started these last 6 to 9 months include a part of remote ingest. So it's not anymore something special. It's really the standard of all the projects that we are doing now. Here on this slide, we can see the architecture that we have deployed for a customer in Switzerland, where we have content that is on one hand shot on the field from smartphones or with cameras, and the content is then transferred from laptops. On the other hand, we have also Intuit Social for the ingest of web content and social media content that is deployed in the cloud. So that's another use case for remote ingest. And all of this is sent to the Azure storage and then retrieved in the facility, in the customer facility from the Azure storage. So here, instead of sending content directly from the sender to the facility, we are going to the Azure cloud, and then we are retrieving the content in the facility, which has many advantages. You can better manage the speed of the transfer, because you can have a cloud location, which is a cloud storage location, which is close to the one who is sending the content over. And also in terms of reliability, it's generally a good way to proceed. And generally, the customers are quite happy with this kind of architecture that we have deployed. So everything goes to the Azure cloud, and then everything media and metadata is retrieved in the facility automatically with Intuit Exchange, and then it's published in the media asset management system. Here is the Grass Valley system, but it can be any media asset management system.
We quickly also spoke about security, because when I look at that, what is the security precautions you're taking?
So there are different areas where security is important. Of course, there is the user management, who can ingest what where. So that's something that is handled by the Intuit Access Configuration Service, where you can create the groups, manage the users, define which profiles they are using. Of course, the transport layer is also secured, so then you can make sure that the content is not available to anyone, but just to the systems that you've configured to have access to the files on the cloud storage.
Very well. I also, since now we developed a bit also on this kind of an architecture picture, and we named most of the components which can be used, could we go a bit more into detail about the different devices you can use, about the limitations, and what the different user experiences could be? I imagine just now on a mobile phone versus a laptop, or this kind of thing.
Yes, definitely. So basically, you can use Intuit Access for remote ingest on any device. That can be a laptop, that can be a workstation. The installation is the same. The user experience is the same. That if you are working on a workstation, working on a laptop on the field, the user experience is always the same. Of course, if you are working on mobile devices like smartphones or tablets, then you have a specific app that is available in the Apple Store or the Google Play Store for the Android devices. And here you can install the Intuit application, the Intuit Access application on your mobile. You can browse the content of your smartphone or tablet, so the camera roll, and select the videos, the photos that you want to ingest. So the user experience is a bit less advanced in the way that you cannot directly do some sub-clipping, what you can do on the desktop application, of course, because of the mobile capabilities and because of the resources which are required. But we are working on that as well for the future, to enrich the user experience on mobile devices. But what is important is that from a metadata point of view, from a login point of view, this is the same credentials, this is the same profiles that you can access to, this is the same metadata that you will be asked to enter. So at the end, the content will arrive at the same place and with the proper metadata. And of course, if there is a transcoding step required to standardize this to the house format, this will be done at the reception point by Intuit Exchange. So at the end, the user experience is different, but the workflow is not different. And that's very important. Your user can be working one day on his smartphone, and a few hours later on his laptop, he will do the same. He will connect to the same server, use the same credentials, add the same metadata to his ingest. So that's simplifying really the work for the people who are doing ingest.
So that means we really consider also the devices. Yet again, we elaborated in different parts that it is very simple for the user itself, so the one who is on the field, let's say it like that. However, I imagine someone has to do the complicated part, so the supervision of all these models, how is that handled? Because also the administrators, they do their job, how are they supported by the Woody system?
Yes, so that's very important, because when you are managing a wide range of devices, a wide range of users, you need to have a good administration tool where you can easily configure and monitor what's happening. So that's why we have drastically simplified the deployment of Intuit Access on all the devices and make this configurable by the administrator in a central place hosted in the cloud. So even if you are dealing with smartphones, with laptops, even if you are dealing with correspondence, with crowd journalists, you are doing all your configuration in a central place as an administrator, and you are just giving the link to the users to download the software and to download their configuration, their rights configuration. So you are managing everything in a central place where you have a complete overview of the users, the profiles, the rights, the permissions, and of course what is being processed.
Very good. You mentioned that also on other steps, we're also now picking out some parts. So if there are multiple locations, we realized that I think the beginning of Woody was really a standalone product for a camera card ingest. And now we are in this very new world with all the remote ingest, which actually also fits very well this new times. Yet there can be not just one location, there can be multiple locations. And you mentioned that there is a mixture of still the on-premise parts of Woody, and then we have this remote parts of Woody. So how does this all come together? How do you organize it? Maybe also by an example, but it doesn't forcibly have to be.
Yes, because it's difficult to describe everything that is possible just theoretically. We have to look into the actual needs of the customer to propose a good design. But yes, it's interesting to mention some examples of projects that we've done and that are illustrating what can be done. One very good example is a project that we did last summer for a sport channel where the complete system is located in one place in Spain, actually, but all the users of the system are in a different place or even in a different country. So here the production system is somewhere because that is convenient, but all the content needs to be ingested remotely. There is no one sitting in front of the system in Spain. And here we have delivered a solution where we have Intuit Access deployed on the laptops and the workstations of the users, mainly in France. And the production systems was located in Spain with Intuit Exchange doing this connection. And between France and Spain, all the content was sent over, in that case, the file catalyst transfer acceleration technology to make the content available. And then the editing was also done remotely from France on the system in Spain. So this is one example of when the remote ingest just becomes the standard, because the production system is just not here with you anymore. It's in a different location. And that's a very good example. Another one that is even more complex and more ambitious is a customer of us, which is deploying 2 production systems in 2 private cloud facilities in 2 different countries. So you have 2 production systems in 2 different locations, and you have users everywhere in the world who need to contribute to this system. So again, we have Intuit Access on mobile devices, on laptops, on workstations, everywhere in the world, sending content to these 2 locations, these 2 private cloud facilities. And at the end, the content is referenced in a unique media asset management layer that is also cloud hosted in AWS. So we can see that for these various use cases, remote production system that is hosted somewhere, different locations that you need to address. Another example is this customer in the US, part of the NPC group, who need us to send social and web content to 7 different locations. So we host part of the system in the cloud, and then we have also Intuit Exchange deployed on each of the 7 locations to do the ingest to the PAM when the content has been transferred. So yes, there are multiple things that we can propose and that we can deploy for the customers facing these situations.
Very good. And actually, there is much more to talk about, and there are also many more examples, and also some quite interesting and very dynamic solutions from technologies. And I think we should have a look into that in personal sessions, also on the brand room of Woody, or also at the coffee bar. However, here in our session now, where we have the 7 things to consider, which is obviously more kind of a number that we always give you some numbers about what you consider in that direction, we are quickly coming, or we are soon coming to an end. Let me just check, are there some questions from the viewers? So I assume everyone booked 101 sessions, and we do that in a separate session. That's very well. So I want to drive your attention again. So we had some components to think about. There is on one side the human side, there is the hardware part, there is the software part, and then there is all the transfer part and the cloud and storage part, and much more. And every time we go a bit more into detail, I know it from my experience, and I hope you realize it as well. Aurélien Brelle from Woody Technologies is the right partner to speak about with that. And I want to animate you to do that in a private session, so of course also after our event. So please come with us. We will be at the coffee bar for some time. And of course, as said, you can also book the private meeting. So you just go on the people, you will find some other colleagues of Aurélien and some other colleagues of us. For this now, I thank you very much, Aurélien, for being with me in that session.
Thank you, Tobias.
I want to stay here animated and look for the next session with us as well. Thank you very much.